Welcome to the Academy, a series focused on the basics of Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic doesn't offer a solo or practice mode when it comes to Galactic Starfighter, the free flight dogfighting space mode available in the game. But there are two ways you can practice flying before jumping into a live player versus player Galactic Starfighter match. In this video, part 2 of a Galactic Starfighter series, we'll be going over how to practice solo using the Galactic Starfighter tutorial, how to practice real fighting with friends using the private group PvP challenge mode, and what you should be practicing. If you happen to have 3 friends, or at least 1 friend and 2 players willing to help for a few minutes, instead of doing the tutorial mode, you can actually enter a private match with the group PvP challenge mode. This type of practice is very beneficial, as the challenge mode does not pause your flight as part of the tutorial, and you and your friend can practice targeting each other as moving ships, which the tutorial does not offer. If you have a total of 4 more friends who want to practice GSF, what you do is form 2 mostly even groups. You can have both groups be Republic side, or 1 Imperial group and 1 Republic group. Have the leader of your group open the PvP panel by clicking the icon of 3 little people near their minimap. Click the PvP tab, and choose the last green button called Issue a Challenge, which will only be available if you're in a group. A box will pop up, and you'll type in the name of the opposite group's leader's character's name. You'll choose Starfighter from the drop-down list and pick which map you want to play. Which one you pick doesn't matter too much for basic practice. You'll then be able to enter the match and play together. If there's only 2 of you, the game does not allow 1 versus 1 matches, as you need to be in a group to issue a PvP challenge. However, if you can scrounge a group up, for example having each player invite a random stranger and ask them to stay in the group for a minute, you can form 2 groups, issue the challenge, enter the match, and the random players or kind volunteers can just reject the match and go about their business while the 2 of you fight 1 versus 1. It won't kick you out of the match if the other players leave. You can technically even play a match alone this way if your friend doesn't enter. Once in, you'll have the chance to pick your ship, click ready, and wait about a minute as your team locks in their choices. You'll then be able to play against each other and shoot players in the opposite group. I promise we'll get into the solo stuff soon. If you're doing it with a friend, I highly recommend going on voice chat with your partner, as it allows you to share knowledge, ask questions, and declare truces if you want to just practice flying versus actually firing at each other. You'll want to practice the same things as in the tutorial that I'll go over, and additionally practice targeting each other, firing your various weapons at each other, using your defensive ability when you're being chased, and playing hide and go shoot around asteroids. One of the most useful things you can practice with a partner that you can't do alone is breaking out of missile locks by having one player be chased and try not to get hit by missiles, especially by using terrain and fancy flying to break the missile lock instead of relying on the engine maneuverability, which will not always be available in a real match. Heads up, due to the deserter penalty for GSF matches, there's a bug right now that if you leave a custom match early, you'll be temporarily locked out from the queuing for the real matches. If you're playing alone or want to practice solo before trying with a friend, you can start practicing flying by opening your ship's hangar by pressing the symbol of a small ship near your minimap or the H key on your keyboard. To enter the tutorial to practice, click the symbol of a yellow question mark on the circle on the top right of your ship hangar. The tutorial is unfortunately one of the worst tutorials I've ever seen in any game, but it's the only available option for flying and practicing solo. The tutorial will pause you as you play to try and explain what to do, and you can use the spacebar to unpause so you can actually fly around. If you have tutorials turned off, the tutorials will be invisible, so just hit spacebar whenever you're stuck hanging in the air. You can fly around for up to 15 minutes as long as you don't capture the satellite, which will automatically kick you out of the practice tutorial. At the end of 15 minutes, it will kick you out, so just restart the tutorial. Knowing about these obnoxious limitations, let's talk about actually practicing. You're first going to want to practice movement. Your ship is flying forward by default, so use your mouse to aim your ship. Moving the cursor a short ways away from the center will turn you gently. Moving it farther away will turn you quicker. One thing you'll want to practice is moving your cursor around the inside in the big circle in the center of the screen to turn, instead of wildly moving your cursor to the far edges of the screen. This will give you finer control, help reduce the motion sickness you may feel, and keep your mouse near the center of the screen, which is where it needs to be to fire. Practice using your A and D keys to rotate yourself, and the difference between gently rotating yourself a few degrees versus doing a full barrel roll 360 spin. You'll also want to get used to the slightly reversed controls. If you move your mouse up, down, left, or right, your ship will move in that direction, but pressing your A key on the left of your W key will rotate your ship to the right, while the D key will rotate you to the left, which may be the opposite of what you're expecting. If you're wanting to rotate to the right of the asteroid, you'll want to press the key on the keyboard that's on your left. Practice charging up to asteroids and gently moving your mouse up to avoid clipping the top of the asteroid, and practice going on the left or the right of an asteroid and avoid clipping its side by rotating to the left or right with your A and D keys to roll. My personal biggest challenge with Starfighter was trying to learn how to fly in a way that didn't make me want to spacebar in my pilot's helmet. You'll quickly learn that moving your mouse wildly and smashing your movement keys is really inefficient when it comes to flying. Once you're feeling comfortable in not crashing into things, you can actually start the tutorial, which is meant to be a mock-up of a real match without any other players. Next, you'll want to practice finding enemies. Tapping the Tab key will flip through the 4 enemy drones, and you'll see the red diamond floating around the center circle as you press Tab, indicating its position to each of the different enemy drones. In a real match, you would also see many other red arrows indicating enemy team members, but the tutorial only shows you one enemy at a time. You start by locating the red diamond along the circle in the center of the screen, and putting your mouse on the red diamond, following it with your mouse if it moves. If you want to get even better at turning towards targets, you can also practice using your A and D keys to put the red diamond symbol at the top of the screen by rotating your ship, and then using your mouse upwards to turn towards it. This is because moving up and down, better known as pitch, is faster than moving side to side, which is known as yaw. Your drone should show up on the screen fairly quickly as you turn towards it. If you want even more practice finding enemies, fly directly past your drone and then try to find it again when you see it. If it doesn't already have a red or gray circle around it, press E to target it while hovering your mouse over it, or Tab to cycle through the nearest enemies. If this was a real enemy player that was moving around, you would see the red targeting symbol move around, indicating where you should shoot. In this case though, the drones are stationary, so you just need to shoot directly at them, and the targeting circle is immediately around them. If this circle is gray, they're too far away. With your tutorial weapon, you need to be within 4,000 meters, which is quite close. Once the red circle turns red, you're within range. Once you've got your training drone targeted, hold down or click your left mouse to fire. Next up is your secondary weapon. For the scout you'll be flying in the tutorial, this will be a missile. Find your drone, hold down your right mouse button while the drone is inside the inner ring in the center of your screen, and when you're within 5,000 meters, hold down your right mouse key. If you haven't targeted your drone, or you're too far away, or do not have your drone in the center of the ring, it will make an angry single beep and nothing will happen. If you're correctly locking onto your target, it will make happy beeping noises as it locks on, then a high-pitched beeping when you've successfully locked on, which is shown visually as some red arrows closing in around the drone while you're locking on, and the arrows sitting stationary once you're locked on. If you accidentally fly so that your locked on target moves out of the inner ring before you fire your missile, you'll hear an angry beeping noise and your missile will no longer be locked on. While locking on and firing a missile at a stationary drone is pretty easy, firing at a moving enemy is a lot harder and you won't be able to practice that in the solo tutorial. Your ship has 3 different power modes: engines, shields, and weapons, which you can flip between with your F1, F2, and F3 keys. You're next going to practice flying around the map and switching between these modes. Look around with your ship until you see the blue box. It's a large floating structure with a blue force field inside it. Switch to F3 engines mode to go fast. Hold down the spacebar and speed boost to the blue box. Once you get there, immediately turn around and figure out how to get to this A satellite using your center circle. Lastly, when you get to A, Try and figure out where the blue box is again, since it doesn't appear on your map or your center circle, and boost back. As you fly, you'll run out of engine power, and once you fully run out, you won't be able to boost anymore. For your next practice, fly from the blue box to Satellite A, and then try and find another drone to attack using your tab key, boosting with your F3 mode to get there quickly. Once you find a drone and are within targeting distance, switch to F1 mode to divert your power to your weapons. Being able to orient yourself on the map, find targets, and switch between your different power modes is going to help you a lot in your first real match. Once you've destroyed all the drones and are done practicing flying, fly a very tight circle around the A objective satellite, which is how you capture objectives in the real match. If your ship is turning green, it's working, and try not to crash while doing so. This will end the tutorial, but you can restart it if you want to keep practicing. If you've done the solo tutorial and can get a group together, I highly recommend doing some practice in the private PvP challenge mode, as we talked about early in the video, as it gives you some practice against a real moving target. If you don't have a group, it's time for you to hop into your first match. I hope this video helped you get some practice in for Galactic Starfighter, and in the next video, part 3, we'll be going over how the matches work and how you can start your first match. If you want to show your support for this series, or to have similar videos show up on your YouTube homepage, subscribe to this channel. And as always, may the Force be with you.